And Shay Tree out. Artistry Couture. I'm going to show you babes how to set up your sewing machine. Make sure you subscribe. So yes, hunty, yes, you do need a sewing machine. And what I will teach you today is pretty much like basic, universal to any sewing machine. So you do need thread. And I do use Sherlock thread. This one is 3,000 yards. It is polyester thread. They use this for overlocking machines, coats, a lot of different heavy duty clothing like leather and other things like that. So of course you will need a needle. The needle that I use is a 9014. I'm gonna see if I can get the camera to zoom in on that 9014. It is like super small and I can barely see, so if you can't see, don't trip. But yeah, 9014. And this is a universal needle. This particular, I got this one from Walmart, and it's by Singer. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to place it into where the needle holder is, tighten it up, and I'm facing it with the flat part facing back. I believe most sewing machines, the needles go in that way. But if not, make sure you check the manual. My thread, the thread holder. I don't know what's the real name. Don't ask me. So I'm going to put my thread in. I like to put it in on the small side. That way I can put in the thread holder in through the middle. And this will hold this thread onto here. And it will keep it from slipping. It like pretty much locks the thread on there. So I'm going to show you guys. I push that all the way down until I can't push it anymore. See, now that's nice, good, and sturdy on there. And I'm going to proceed to thread in the machine. I'm going to grab my thread. So yeah, proceeding to threading the machine. I have a loop that's on the back of here that controls where the thread goes. And I'm going to pull it down and then pull it right back up. And I'm going to hook it through. There's like a hook on the inside of here. So I'm going to hook that onto there. That controls the thread being fed into the needle. Turn the machine on. I'm going to put the thread through this hook that's right here. And you will proceed to threading the needle. And then you can just pull it through the presser foot to move it out of the way. And there's like a line right here that I like to pull the thread through to get the thread out of the way. So we're done with that part. Let's move on to the bobbin. You wanted to open up the bobbin. You do want to make sure that your bobbin is full. Mine is pretty full. So you want to take like a little tail out, a little bit of string, pull it in, well, push it in there. You want to pull this over to the right and pull it back through the left, through that loop. Follow the whole little guideline. And there's like a little cutter right there. So you don't have to worry about excess string being in the way. And you want to proceed to put in the cover right back on, because otherwise your machine will not work unless that cover is on there. Now, babes, I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the stitches that I use. So this is the little screen. So number one, I rarely use a number one, but I do use a number one stitch. That's the normal stitch. Number 4 is the zigzag stitch. Sometimes the zigzag on some machines will be like maybe like a F, a J, or a G. So this one is for J. And now, when I am doubling my tracks, I use a 1.4 and a 7.0. So I'm going to show you guys how that looks on here. Yep, 1.4 and a 7.0. And when I am sewing the tracks onto the cap, I use a 1.6 and a 6.0 on the first inch of sewing the tracks down onto the cap. And in the middle, I do switch to a 4.0 by 4.0 or a 4.0 by 5.0. This ensures that it catches both tracks and that everything is great. I do also use a number 8 stitch, and I use that when I'm sewing my frontals down, and I keep those on default settings. I was trying to get this stupid sticker to stand up here, and it was just, it ain't want to work, okay? All right. But I do use a number 8 stitch. So of course, the other thing I want to show you guys, which is very, very important when you are sewing your wigs, is this tension wheel. It goes from a number 0 to 9. You don't want to have it up to a 9. You want to have it somewhere between 4 and 3, preferably 4 and 3. Keep it in between those. Those are really, really great. For thick tracks, keep between a 3 and a 2. When you're doubling the tracks, you can do 3 to 4. But if those tracks, after you double them, are really, really thick, you want to have them between a 3 and a 2. So I did go ahead and thread my needle, which is, like I said, very, very simple. You just put in the thread through the small, tiny little hole. I have so much problem with this. I didn't feel like doing it early in the video, but I did do it. So I'm going to take this little cardboard right here and show you guys how these stitches look outside of the cap. And this first stitch that I'm doing is a number 1 stitch on default settings. And of course, when I say default, meaning that I did not change the settings. I didn't change the width or the length. So that's my number 1. That's a straight stitch. Now I'll use a number 1 to lock like my my lace closures down. I won't use the number 8. I use the number 1. I also use the number 1 when I am sewing the frontals down, when I am sewing them by the band. You can see that in any of my videos. I do explain how I do that. So now what I'm showing you is the number 4 stitch. So that is 1.4 by 7.0. As you can see how close that stitching is. Now I use a really, really close stitching when I'm doing my doubling my tracks, because I do cut my tracks. So you never know where you're gonna cut that track. You don't want the tracks unraveling. You want those tracks to stay pretty much all together, because as you're sewing them onto the cap, you won't always sew both tracks down to the cap. More than likely what you'll sew is you'll sew that top part. You'll sew down the top part of the double tracks to the cap, which allows the tracks to be a little bit more flowy, move a little bit better. And this is of course another number 4 stitch. .4 by 6.0. I'm sorry, 1.6 by 6.0. Now, as I said before, when I'm sewing my tracks down, that I'll use a 4x4. But lately I have been using a 1.6 by 6.0 on the ends. So when I start sewing the tracks to the cap, this is the stitch that I use. That's a little bit bigger, but I use this one specifically because it allows it allows the cap and the tracks to glide through the machine with ease with the 1.6 and the 6.0. The 4.0 and the 7.0 is like a little too close, and it won't really like it gives me problems. So I loosened up the width of the stitch, and it allowed me to glide everything thicker, especially with me using the dome caps. And as you can see, that 4x4 is what gets me through my wigs. That 4x4, because you don't really need a tight stitch. You don't really need it that tight when you're going through the wig. You want the ends to be the tightest, and you can have the middle stitching to be a lot looser. That way it allows you to get through the cap. Not quicker, but quicker. Yeah, so that's some of my stitches. I didn't show the 8.0, but if you want to try to go do the number 8 stitch, then yeah. But thanks for watching. I do have weekly videos uploaded. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Here's some extra videos. Bye.